Welcome to the Netatmo weather dashboard. Today I'm going to talk about this dashboard, walk you through it and look at all the different bits on there. And at the same time I'm going to talk about the Netatmo weather station and all the bits that come with that if you kind of go for the full weather station and all the modules and things. Netatmo are a company, it's a French company. And it's been around since 2011. It sort of does all smart home stuff, you know, like cameras and smart TRVs for radiators, and they do weather stuff as well. And they actually have weather stations operating and on a community. I'll get onto the community bit in a second. In 170 countries. So 170 countries worth of people are feeding data into them. Yeah, wow. I mean, that's just incredible, isn't it? As to the accuracy of it, well, it depends on where and how you mount your stuff. But what I'm going to do, as I say, is just walk through this and I'm going to chat about the different bits as I go along. So it's not going to be a particularly short video, I don't think. It will be quite a sort of chatty video. If you're after something super concise about Netatmo, then maybe this isn't the video for you. But if you are happy for me to just talk you through my experiences so far, and my problems and all that type of thing, then stick with me. So we might as well start at the very top left-hand side here. Just zooming in, you've got the outdoor air quality. So the module, the weather station, the basic weather station comes with an indoor module, which plugs in via a USB sort of adapter. It's a USB 5 volt in. And that monitors stuff, all your kind of indoor stuff, indoor air quality, and also pressure, because of course air pressure doesn't change whether it's inside or outside, measures that in millibars. So that's the inside bit, and it also comes with an outdoor module to measure your outdoor temperature, your humidity, and that's about it really. So if we just go to the top left here, we can see that the outdoor air quality in the area where I am at the moment is 32. Now, that's not that good, I don't think, but I wouldn't expect it to be that good. The air quality around Bristol isn't terribly good in the grand scheme of things. And this is, you can see that it's also got O3 in brackets next to it. What that means is that the O3 component of the air quality is sort of the worst bit at the moment. And this is nothing to do with the weather station. This, and if I just move over to the 7-day forecast here, these two elements are the only parts that are nothing to do with the weather station. These are brought in from external providers, so external weather providers, external air quality providers. I went and checked that for sure with Netatmo before I made this video because I wanted to be sure on the air quality that this isn't something that's being monitored by the outdoor module. So the top left-hand bit there, air quality, just takes a sample, gives you a snapshot what it is at the moment. I've seen that go quite high actually. We've had high pressure sat around Bristol for the last 10 days or more, really. And it just means that nothing's moving. And with the sort of poor quality you get from the poor air from diesel car, I think the main pollutants in Bristol are out the, is it NO2 from diesel cars? And the kind of wood burners and stuff like that. They just make the air rubbish. And of course, it just sits there because there's no wind to blow it away. So not too bad today, but it has been a lot worse than that. It's certainly been up in the 50s or 60s on previous days. And below that, we can see there's a 7-day forecast, but the sections just below that, we've got temperature and humidity. Now, they are live. They are from my outdoor module. By the way, the location you see on here is not my location. I have changed the location for recording this video, just so I don't have to go through the rigmarole of blurring everything out all the time. Yeah, you can see that the temperature is 3.8 degrees C at the moment. So you can change your units, of course. And the humidity is 89. And you can get that in a more detailed graphed form. If I just I can disable the graphs like that. But just to enable those graphs, you can just click on one like that and click on the other. And then it brings in those two graphs into your main section here. So yeah, 7-day forecast. Can be switched between temperature, rainfall, and just general summary, but this is just forecasted stuff from Weather Something Pro or some provider. So let's move down and look at the graphs that you get with the weather station. Now, I think that the people who buy these kind of things are not the most serious about capturing weather data. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm jumping to a conclusion. The reason I bought this is because I wanted something convenient. I wanted something easy. And I like the fact that the different modules are completely separate from each other. So I don't have to have this big weather station sat in my garden, which I'm sure my partner wouldn't be too happy about and the neighbours probably wouldn't be too happy about. Instead, I can have little modules that are all separate from each other, in each kind of placed in a more subtle location. That's important to me. So that was one of the reasons why I went with this particular system. I also wanted something really convenient that just chucks it into a graph, chucks it into a system that I can access on my phone, and it's that convenience that I'm paying for here. Because I guess this isn't the cheapest solution available, but you don't pay an ongoing subscription for this service. So to have this dashboard, there's no ongoing subscription. I don't know why, because a lot of the time if you get something like a Nest camera or whatever, you're then having to pay an ongoing subscription for that. But I don't know. I welcome anyone to come back and say this isn't true, but I kind of just think, well, what are Netatmo doing with my data? Are they then able to feed, if I say I'm going to be part of the community, are they then able to use that data and provide better forecasting for it? I kind of think they will do, right? Which they're going to sell my data. They're going to get lots of money for that. So if they get the data for hundreds of weather stations across the UK and are able to paint, on average, of course you get your extremes and you get your outliers that aren't going to be that accurate, but they're going to be able to paint a much better weather picture at a very local level for the UK and other countries around the world, 170 countries around the world. That's got to be worth a lot of money to Netatmo, or Legrand, I think it is now. I think is that the correct pronunciation? I don't know. Legrand. Let's call them Legrand or whatever. They were bought out in 2018 by that company. All right, so moving on. Let's have a look at the graphs that are generated. Now, I really like these overall. They are really neat. They're you just get all these points of information. The weather stations update the main module frequently. As you can see, every 5 minutes we have an update coming in and it produces a really nice graph. You can see overnight temperatures dropping down, gets right down to 0.9. And then as soon as that big ball in the sky, right, comes up, which is about right, the temperature shoots up. I mean, quite noticeably shoots up there. And we're already up to 3.8 degrees at the time of recording this video. What I don't like about these graphs is that when you go back in time, you can only display, from what I can tell, you can only display a whole day from midnight to midnight. So if I want to see the whole night, and let's say, for me, it's interesting to see from, say, 8 o'clock in the evening until 8 o'clock in the morning on one graph, because I can see the pattern of the temperature overnight. But I can't do that on here. If I go back to Friday, well, I've got Friday up until midnight, and now I'm missing the trend of overnight. I just can't see those two things together. I can if I go into week, so I can have a look at my week view, and then I've got that, and it gives that's okay, but it's not as accurate, it's not as detailed. You don't get those really kind of nice smooth lines going up and down, because it's just sample points are how frequent? Every 6 hours, is it? 1, 10. Oh no, okay, so more frequent than that, but yet they're not that frequent. And then we also have a month view, which I haven't had the weather station. I've only had it for a couple of weeks now, so it hasn't got too much. And we've got our max and mins for the days, which is really nice. Right? You've just got really clear view across an entire month of your maximum and minimum temperatures in your area. And that's the beauty of this. This is your weather. This is not weather that might be predicted or is what some weather station says nearby. This is what the weather was where you are. And that's important because, I like it because it's different. So I look at the forecast, and the forecast can say, oh yeah, it's going to drop to -3 or something like that. I don't think so. Not round here. It's not going to do that. The very first time, although we've been forecast to have minus temperatures probably about 4 times in the last 2 weeks, we've had them once, and that was here. And this is where the temperature's gone down, and you can see and we've dropped down -0.9, and we bottomed out at -2. Did we get to -2? Yeah, we just about got to -2 at 7:52 in the morning. You can see it came back up again, and then sort of oddly, right throughout the day, it stayed flat. I assume this was because of cloud cover or something. But this is the kind of thing you can look at and just monitor. And I don't know, you're either into this sort of stuff or you're not, right? I mean, some people might look at this and go, so what? What's the point? I can just look at an app and find this for the area. I can look at historical weather data for Bristol and I'm job done. Well, if that's what you say, then clearly you're not the sort of person who's going to buy a weather station for your garden, are you? And humidity here is obviously a lot more sort of rough, the sampling, because it doesn't change in the same way as temperature does. But it still is it just creates some interesting views sometimes. You can see here, humidity's up at 88%, relative humidity, of course. And then all of a sudden it just bottoms out. It just bottomed right down to 58%. No idea why. I was thinking, is this accurate? Is this really what happened? And then so I went on to the community, checked a few other weather stations, same thing happening. And then I checked the historical weather of Bristol overall, and absolutely, that's what happened on this day. It just completely bottomed out for some reason and dropped down to 58 and then slowly started climbing up. Don't know why that happens. I don't have enough meteorological knowledge to know that sort of thing. And I've actually moved one of mine into the loft. I just wanted to sort of compare weather and temperatures, humidity and temperatures in the loft to outside and see what the delta is between the two. I don't know why, I just did. Right, so I've also got the rain gauge, and if I just click on that, I'm just going to disable these now, and we'll have a look at the rain gauge. Well, it hasn't rained here at all for days and days. In fact, I don't think I've really had any opportunity to... There we go. Here we are. We did have a little bit of rain. The last time we really had any rain or any significant rain, because it does have to be more than just a quick drizzle for 2 minutes to activate this, was on the 11th of January. So what date is it today? It's the 22nd today. That's the last time we had any significant rain. Now, a little problem with the rain gauge, which you may want to know about. This here is water that's developed on the rain gauge, has frozen overnight, and then has melted. And this went in, it was a big load of water, just sort of condensation, I don't know, whatever, on the cup of the rain gauge. And then it melted and presumably ran in and just produced enough water to tip the little kind of scale. What it does is it runs in, fills up a little scale type thing, and then it moves down, which then empties the water out, and then the water runs into the other side and then tips the other side, and it does that at 0.1 millimeter increments. So it has to rain more than just a drizzle for 5 minutes to, as I mentioned, to activate this thing. It's not perfect, but it's certainly going to give you a good guide as to how much rain you've had. As long as you place the stuff correctly, and as long as you place it on a level surface and you don't knock it about, because if you knock it about, you're going to activate that scale inside, and you're going to get movements and things that you don't, measurements that you don't want transmitted across. So this is the only problem I've experienced with it so far, and I really haven't had that much opportunity to test it. As I say, we did get some rain here, and the total amount was absolutely bang on to the historical amount, which I was really impressed with. Accumulated over the period, 1.3 millimeters. That was the exact amount that was forecast for that day. Now, when it happened, and that's just pure chance, right? I mean, what are the chances? The rainfall is a little bit hit and miss at the best of times. But I was still impressed. It was the first time I'd had the chance to test the rain gauge, and it was bang on. So yeah, I was really pleased with that. Okay. This is the rain gauge bit. We also have the wind as well. So I've got that on the rear wall, which is a dreadful place to have it. I can't mount it on top of the roof. That's the ideal place for it. You're meant to do it about 1 meter above your roof, because then you can pick up the wind in all directions. I just can't do that. Okay, I mean, I cannot put it up there. I could not get there easily. And if I needed to change the batteries, it would be impossible to get to. But so far, I found the wind to be really nice. So let me just zoom in a little bit on this wind section here. And you can see that we've got a day. Which day are we looking at now? We're looking at Friday the 14th. Let's go forward a bit to the more recent stuff. So here's yesterday's. And you can see the wind just sort of picked up there. Direction, what's that? Northwesterly wind. But part of it's blocked by the house. So I'm effectively only going to get from realistically going to be able to measure probably a southwesterly wind to a northwesterly wind, maybe a northerly wind at the best. Ooh, no, probably would never get a northerly wind. So I am limited in how accurate the direction is going to be. However, this is all going to be work, and it's going to work within, it's okay, it's going to work all right for me. It's going to give me a guide, and it's going to be right to itself. But yes, you do need to stick this on top of a roof or in a far more open space. I can't do that. But this is great because it's a non-moving component. The wind bit is just I don't know. Well, I actually don't really know how it works, but there's no spinning thing. There's no spinning device to make noise. It's small. It's compact thing that I've just got sat on a fairly exposed wall just towards the back of the garden, and it seems to work okay. Let's take a look at the indoor module now. So this is the slightly taller device. These things are tiny, by the way. They look bigger than you think they would be when you see them in pictures. They're really small. I mean, if you think the outdoor module is probably about the size of a toilet roll tube, it's probably about the best example I can give you, maybe even smaller. And the indoor one is just a bit taller, but same kind of same girth, if you like, same width. And so the indoor module monitors temperature, monitors humidity, it monitors the pressure, it monitors CO2 levels, and it has a sound meter on it as well. Sound meter always worries me a little bit because that then says you have a microphone on the device, which I kind of think, okay, so why are you having to put a microphone on a device that's going to sit there and be on all the time in my house? Maybe that's just me being paranoid about things. Loads of smart tech does that these days anyway, and people might not have any concern about it at all, but I do. Temperature-wise, well, this is just going to bump up and down as per our sort of heating system, really. So you can see it kind of just sits around between 19 and then when no one's in the room there, it's dropped to 18 and now bumped up to 20 again when somebody's come back. This is just monitoring your house. It's your house temperature. Humidity in your house as well. So again, you wouldn't want your humidity to be sort of over probably 50, 55. You're really starting to get into bad indoor comfort if your humidity is going that high. Equally, you don't want it too dry. This is probably about right, I would say. Our house is, it's not, we don't live in a damp house, and it's always been very good like that. Pressure, as I mentioned, this is an outdoor thing. This measurement does go to the community, so as long as you enable your community sharing of information, this is the pressure, because pressure is the same indoor and outdoor. It's just atmospheric pressure. You're not going to change that by going in your house. And this is spot on. You can see right now, look, 104.2. This is a high. This is really high at the moment. And this is where we've been for quite a while. If I just look at in fact, I'll look at a month overall and go to pressure. So we've seen it go up and down a little bit. We've been up at 104.2 here, but only dropping down to 10.26, back to 103. But look, when I started, we were down at 997, but it hasn't got down that level at all. We've had a high pressure system sat over the UK, the south particularly of the UK, for well over a week and a half now. And that has impacted the weather, and hence you haven't seen any rain on the rain gauge. So it's cool. I mean, I love all this stuff. The CO2 side of things, well, CO2 is parts per million, of course, and it leads you down a sort of path of discovering what is a good CO2 reading, because I never really thought about this before, and I think sometimes ignorance is bliss when it comes to these kind of things. But CO2 in the house, it goes up enormously when you sleep at night and you shut a door on a bedroom. This is actually, the indoor module here is actually in our son's room. And at night, I'll just go down to something a little bit more specific. So switch to day mode and go to CO2. And you can see in the evening here, when he goes to bed and we shut the door in his bedroom, boom, right up to 1,218. And that's not really bad. It's a marginally stuffy room, 1,218. It's not going to do you any harm. You're talking much, much higher than that to do any harm. But once you get into 2,000, then you're going to start feeling a bit sort of like, it's going to be a room where you're not going to be able to concentrate as well as you might want to. And, don't get me wrong here. We're talking 50,000 is where you need to be to kill you, I think, or something like that. It's really high, but yeah, you will. They've done tests with people. This is what I've read anyway. I don't know whether this is true. They've done tests with people and they've noticed massive drops of concentration, even just going up from 1,000 to 1,500 or from 500 to 1,000. So what I did here later on in the evening is just open the door of his bedroom. And again, what I want to be able to do is see overnight. I want to see it overnight, but I can't. Now I have to go to the next day. Come on. If Netatmo are watching this, please update this to be able to put a custom time range in here or do a midway point, do a midday to midday point, because that's what I want. That's what I would really like on here. But no, you can see midnight. This is when I went to bed and I opened his door, and look how it drops off when I just opened the door of his bedroom. We can see something the same. So this is our other son's bedroom, and same idea. Look, went to bed, opened his door, shuts down here, and I've also got one in the kitchen. Now this is interesting. I'll put the CO2 one up in the kitchen, and you can see when we use our gas hob, because gas hobs are pretty bad like that. Did I use it yesterday? No, we didn't. We didn't use it yesterday. Thursday, I think we will have done. There we go. Look at this. So gets to making some food. Yes, we make food really early at the moment. And look at that. Shoots right up to over 2,000 parts per million. As soon as you finish cooking, back down again to a normal sort of background level of 500, 550. Standard outdoor CO2 levels, by the way, is about 400 parts per million, just for reference. So you can get a bit less than that and whatever, but your average kind of atmospheric amount of CO2 is 400 from what I've read. So yeah, your indoor module. So these are the things you get with it. Your standard weather station has this information here in your indoor module, and it has your temperature and humidity, and you also get your outdoor quality as part of your outdoor module. The rain gauge and the wind gauge are additional things you have to buy. And for us, I've been able to do the temperature in the loft, in my son's bedroom, and in the kitchen, because I've got 3 additional indoor modules as well. And this all pumps together to get really nice, detailed information. I love this stuff. It's brilliant. Let's just move over to the right-hand side here. Now, this advertises your location, and it does this on the community as well. And I kind of think it kind of has to, doesn't it, really? Because there's no point having weather information that's going to be with no location, because what's the point, right? You say, oh, here's the weather, but I'm not going to tell you where that's the weather for. So, I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all. And this is where you get the information about your devices. And this is going to be one of my key complaints, right? So again, Netatmo, if you're listening, well, maybe you might do something to improve this or not. We got our Wi-Fi reception here. It uses 2.4 gig. It uses just basic 2.4 gig. There's no kind of multi-in, multi-out or anything like that. It is just I think a 72 megabit connection on 2.4 gig. Works fine. You don't need 5 gig. You don't need anything else. 2.4 is the way to go for the main connection to your Wi-Fi. Absolutely fine with that. The rest of the modules, as far as I know, use the 868 or around about the 800 to 900 megahertz area. And that was one of the reasons I went for this, because I thought, we have a terrible time trying to get Wi-Fi through the walls of this house. I don't know what they're made of. I don't know what type of brick it is, but it's impossible to get Wi-Fi. I've got like 6 in a house that is not very big. I've got like 5 or 6 Wi-Fi nodes because I just need them to get Wi-Fi throughout the house at any reliable level. And I thought, well, okay, I'll be able to put these in different rooms. At 868, we're going to do much, much better. 800 to 900 megahertz, we're going to do much better as far as kind of penetration through walls, because that's how it works. Lower frequencies are better at penetrating walls. But as you can see here, this is at 2. The signal's at 2. The loft is at 3. The kitchen's at 3. These are meters away from this. We are not talking big distance here. The kitchen is through a non-bricked, just a wooden floor, so wood and a bit of plasterboard through the floor, probably at a distance of about 3.5 meters. And the signal's down at 3. Now, a signal of 3 is fine. It works. But a signal of 2, I've had these disconnect randomly and say modules unreachable. So the signal on these devices is poor. To the outside, I've got a nice, the only reason the main house one is in the back bedroom is so it can get to the back reliably. So to the outside stuff, the rain gauge, the wind gauge, and the outdoor module, the signal's good, and it's good all the time. It has to go through a window, and it's not perfect. It was still only talking about 5 meters away, pretty much line of sight, one single glazing pane of glass between it, and it's down at 4. So the signal on these devices is a problem. Please be aware of that before you opt for this or buy this, because if you're talking about distance or if you're talking about a bigger property, you kind of think, well, it's nice to sell additional indoor modules, but what's the point if I can't put them in different rooms? Because it's like, well, okay, you can monitor different rooms, but you can't actually get the information back to the base station in those different rooms. So just put them all nearby. Why do I want to put them all nearby? Because they're all going to measure the same thing then. Honestly, this has been a real sort of issue for me. I've had to compromise on where these are. I want to put one in another bedroom, but I can't because it just isn't reliable enough. I'd like to put one in our living room. I can't do it because I cannot reach from this to the from this device to the living room using the module. The signal on them is just not good enough. And yes, I put that down to the location we live in, the house we live in, and the walls. And it would be much better in a kind of new property where they're just made of basically wood and plasterboard and that type of thing, and stud walls, and they're just built differently. Wi-Fi goes through them so much more easily when they're new builds compared to an older sort of over 100. This house is over 100 years old, and the type of brick it uses is very different than bricks they use today. So I just want to warn you, I would try it out, but be prepared to return it based on signal, because you might struggle. If you're only going to be using your main module and your outdoor stuff, no problem, because you can just stick this somewhere where you know you've got good reach to your outdoor stuff, and it'll probably do the trip absolutely fine. But as for the indoor modules, not so easy. You get the point anyway. We can monitor battery levels here, and the batteries apparently last a year, up to 2 years. In some of the wind one rather has AA's rather than AAA's. The others have AAA batteries, and it's a consumable. You've got to replace them and make sure your stuff's easily accessible to replace. A year's fine. Even if it's only 6 months, that's not too bad for this kind of continuous monitoring. I mean, it's sending data back every 5 minutes. So yeah, I think that's perfectly reasonable. Okay, one other little gripe. I realize this is getting quite long now. One other little gripe is that when these disconnect from here, so when I've had issues where they've just gone, can't find the module, I thought these would continue to capture the data and then send it back to the main module as one sort of like, oh, here we go. Wasn't able to contact about this data, but I've now got it. Here you go. Doesn't work like that. You just end up with a big chunk of data missing, and I can probably find you one actually. If I go to, so if I turn that off, which ones have I struggled with? So the loft one, I moved it into the loft because I was struggling with that. So I'm going to have a look at the loft. So the temperature in the loft, you can see here where I moved it, and it just dropped down the other day. Now, was it that day where I had a problem? There we go. Okay. So the reason I moved it is because where it was previously, I was having signal problems. I just couldn't get it to do what I wanted it to do. And you can see that. So I've got all my data points here, and then I've got one here at 11:16, and 11:21, and then I've got nothing until 12:14. So it doesn't update after you've lost connectivity. It just misses off that data entirely. And that is that's poor, because I kind of think, well, what the heck are these things doing then? Can they not store anything on themselves and just sort of update the main station afterwards? No, there has to be that permanent connection in place. Not ideal, not great. As long as everything works, as long as everything's connected, you're okay. But this isn't going to keep any data by itself, it seems. And that's the big difference between this and a professional sort of weather station. Because although the data would be more difficult to access, I think, on something like that, with a proper device, proper like on a pole or on a roof somewhere, or exposed location, proper Stevenson screen and all this type of stuff for the thermometer. You'd have your data on the device and it would all be in raw format. You'd pull it off and you'd be able to do with it as you wish. But much more awkward. This is perfect. It's exactly what I need. Just be aware of those few little problems. So the only other thing to talk about is this community. So if you wish, as I mentioned, out of all the countries in the world, you can share your weather station data with the world. And I'm just going to click on this now and open up the location where I am. And you can see here, this is the area of Bristol where I am. Well, it's not actually, not exactly. It's close to there, but it's not exactly where I am. And you can see all the others that are around Bristol as well. So I have got two people within a really small area. And this is a filtered map as well. You can go to unfiltered, and the not filtered version is, I think, where Netatmo have gone, your data is not reliable or good enough, we're going to filter you off the map. I'm not even on the map permanently because I haven't been feeding them accurate data. What they do is they say, if you haven't had your stuff feeding data or decent data for 2 weeks, you won't be on this map. You can still share it with somebody else. So if I were to log out now, I wouldn't see myself on here. But I could still share this with someone and they'd be able to see it on this map, publicly. But you just can't. Yeah, they essentially, Netatmo are going to say to you, we want to be sure that the data we're going to harvest from you and sell on to people is going to be good, and then we'll put you on our map or something. That's the pessimist in me, I suppose. I don't know that. So if we do the filtered, you get far fewer stations. In fact, you don't get any at the moment. What's going on? There we go. So if I just zoom out into the UK a little bit more, you get an idea of how many we have. So yeah, over here, what's going on with this one? Someone's got their outdoor module inside or in a greenhouse or something like that. I mean, this is an indoor measurement, clearly. If I click on this one, 20 degrees, humidity 50%. This is indoor stuff, right? Why are they sending this data for an indoor measurement? I don't understand that, but it's still on the map. So why are they saying, well, we need you to provide decent data when this is clearly not the right data? Same thing here, 16 and 16. These are accurate. These are, look, the temperatures across here. You've got a general temperature of 7 or 8 degrees. Further in the southwest of England, we've got something a little bit cooler at the moment, more 4 around the sort of Bristol area, getting a little bit warmer down to the southwest. And this is great information. I mean, look, moving across into Europe, similar sort of temperatures all across the board, actually. Look, these things are even available in Germany. Wow, that's Germany, and Germany are very strict with their data privacy, but you can even get weather information from Germany. Move a little bit further south into the Alps and we start to see temperatures drop below the freezing mark. Let's zoom in a bit on the Alps and we can see, look, we've got this one here down at -6, but let's see what altitude that's at. Altitude 1,169 meters, so a little bit higher than my 75, 76 meters where I am. Temperature's a lot lower, of course. So this is the community, and I think this is fantastic. This is great to just be able to sort of provide your weather information, to be part of this group of, provision of weather data. Whether that's your thing or not, I don't know. But if you're watching this video and you're still watching at this kind of 35-minute mark, then I'm guessing it is. This is the community bit of Netatmo. This is the dashboard. I hope you've learned a little bit about the system. If you have any questions at all, I've been using this for a few weeks now. I've done a lot of research on this, a lot of testing, trying things out. But if you've got any questions about it at all, will it work in this situation? How did you find this? That sort of thing. Please put them down in the comments. If I can answer it, I'll always come back to you in about 24 hours or so. If I can't answer it, then I just leave it. Because otherwise I'd just be constantly writing, sorry, don't know, or something like that. So I just won't answer it. I'm afraid I'll leave that for someone else to answer. And the only other thing to say, as I always do, is if you are looking at one of these, or if you want to find out the current price of one of these and you'd like to support the channel, I will put some Amazon affiliate links in the video description and in the comments. Please click on those if you'd like to support the channel. It's entirely up to you. But thanks very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting. This is my look at the Netatmo dashboard and a chat about the good and bad sides of the Netatmo weather station.